All right, so I brought over my last frame. And now I brought those frames in at the bottom. And so you see, because I brought them in at the bottom, oh, I just screwed something up. It's so easy to mess things up when you have frames outputted. But all these frames in the timeline do is they program and link to the different eyeballs. So if I go to layer or frame 12 here, you see all these new frames I brought in for the end. They're all turned on in every frame now. But it doesn't matter because I have them on the bottom. And the frames are on at the top. But if I ever turned off the frame, then it would mess up the animation. So I'm just going to play through my frames. I can close my cropped assets. I can move this a little bit bigger. Play it through, make any changes I need to timing. And you see how it resets at the end because I added those end frames. After he gets chewed up and the dinosaur walks off, the camera pivots back. Now I don't love that because it just pivots back and then for no reason starts pivoting the other way. So let me spend a little bit longer on this frame. Not too much longer, but let's just do 0.5. And then for this one, let's do 0.5. And so it's just slowing it down. And for this one, let's do 0.5. So these are the little adjustments you can make. I want to make sure I get the tip of the tail, right? Now let's see how that ends. I like how the rain is moving. It's going to slow the rain down a little bit. And that's not great. So maybe it's not worth it. Because even though you might want your character to slow down a little bit, you don't want the rain to stop in the middle of the sky. So I'm going to go back and just change all of them to 0.3. But if I wanted to run a little faster, I can select all of them and say, instead of 0.3, let's do 0.25. And see that. Now it's all running a little bit faster. But maybe that's too fast. So if I think it's too fast, I can change it all to slower than 0.3. I can try 0.4. It's almost half a second. That might be too slow. So that's why I like 0.3. It just feels right for a GIF, even though it's not one of the defaults. It's a little faster than, a third of a second. Okay, so once you're happy with how the animation works, you want to make sure you didn't accidentally move your frames at all, so there's no edges showing in the background. I'm proud of how the lighting is changing and the rain is changing throughout, and the texture, and it really feels like rain's hitting the ground. All that stuff. Okay, so now you can stop it. You want to save it. This is your stage. It's your final animation in Photoshop. You've already saved your assets. Now to save it as an animated GIF that will play online, first check your image size. Make sure it's 8 by 8 inches by 150. If it's more than that, it's going to take forever to process as a GIF, and it won't play very well online. So that's about as big as you want to make a GIF animation. 8 by 8 inches by 150. That's for a high-def screen. That's a large square on a high-def screen. Larger than an iPad, right? So then we say File, and instead of Save As, because if we say Save As a GIF, I'll show you what happens. If they even give you the option, it would be a CompuServe GIF, right? If I save that to the desktop, it will save, but it won't be animated. So let's look at the info. It will only take 938 kilobytes, so not even 1 megabyte. But when I open it with a web browser, it will just be a single image. It won't animate, right? So I can't save it that way. Instead, I have to save it as a GIF with only 256 colors in a way that it holds all of my frames and all of my timing in what's called an animation script. And the way you do that in Photoshop is you go to File, Export, Save for Web Legacy. So because this is only for the web, you say Save for Web Legacy. And it will give you this whole option where we get to set the defaults. You want it to be a GIF, right? And you want it to be selective colors, 256. That's the most colors you can have. It will automatically pick which colors. You can customize these, but we're not doing a fine art GIF right now. We're just trying to get it done. And then the quality, for whatever reason, I like bicubic smoother as opposed to just bicubic. And then the looping options, we want it to loop forever, right? And you can play it through and see it, but it's going to be zoomed in, so you can zoom out to see it. And it will look a little grainier, especially in the preview, than in Photoshop, because this is millions of colors and this is only 256 colors. But then you hit save, and it will save it with your original file name, but the end of the file name, it will be a GIF, and that's what you want. So you say save to the desktop. And it will take a little while to process. This is going to be a lot larger than just that one image GIF. So let's see, get info. This is 31 megabytes, right? We can put that into PhotoBucket and it will play, but it's way bigger than 5 megabytes just because of all the animation scripts. And by saying get info, you can test it, you can see it. Its timing might look slightly different than it looked on Photoshop, but hopefully not too much. And that's just because of the processing lag of Photoshop. And then you can upload it to PhotoBucket. So now we've got 2 things we need to upload to PhotoBucket out of 3. We've got our sketch and we've got our GIF. So these are both online file types that I will upload. The last thing we need is a clean storyboard. And so once you have your final stage, your frames, this is what we're going to do. Especially if you've made any modifications to your layers like I did. I had like a black layer behind and did stuff with it. This is how you clean it up to make a clean storyboard. We're going to select, we're going to go to the very, don't worry about it. We're going to go down to your timeline. I was going to think if you need to select anywhere in particular, but don't mess with your frames too much because it can mess up your animation. Make sure it plays the way you want it to. This is your final PSD stage. And it's playing fine. So now what you want to do is instead of making frames out of layers, we are going to make layers out of your frames. Okay? So we go to the window options and we say flatten frames into layers. So whatever plays in the animation will now be a separate layer. And it will call it a frame in the layer name. So we're going to flatten frames into layers. Okay, so now you see I have frame 40 through frame 1. Everything under frame 1 I can delete. All the layers I can delete. Okay? And now I'm going to select all of my animation frames and drag them to the trash because now I've got the clean layers that make that animation. Now I'm going to go to File, Save As, because I don't want to overwrite my stage file. And this is going to be Assignment 5 Refined, or we can call it Final Storyboard. I'm going to do it to the desktop, okay, as a PSD file. Now we don't need the timeline anymore. So I can go to Window and uncheck next to the timeline so I have more room. And now I need to make this into a 9 by 9 inch grid or a 9 by 9 square grid. And I'm going to do that by going to Image, Canvas Size. And the width I'm going to make 30 inches. The height I'm going to make 40 inches. It's similar to what we've done before with Canvas Size. The reason we're doing that is, remember, our resolution is not 350 anymore. Our resolution is only 150. So this becomes printable resolution now. And it puts a frame right in the middle. I'm going to use my guides, turn them back on. So I have guides sticking next to my panels. And right now it's like I have a big piece of paper with a whole stack of 40 cards right in the middle. And now I need to choose which cards I want to deal out into the storyboard. So to make it a little bit clearer, I'm going to make a new layer, fill it with white, and push that behind everything. Okay? And then I'm going to turn on my grid, which the shortcut for is Command apostrophe. And what the grid allows me to do is it allows me to put guides exactly 1 inch on each side of my center panel. Okay, so I use the grid to put the guides exactly the same space. These are the layout tools, and I can hit Command apostrophe to get rid of it. And so you want the guides like this, and then you just are going to deal through. That's frame 1. I'm going to have auto select layer on, and I'm going to move frame 1 to that top spot. Frame 2 looks too much like frame 1. Frame 3 looks too much like frame 1. Frame 4. In fact, even frame 1 for my storyboard, I might choose an image like this. I'm going to use frame 9 and move that up into that first spot, because I don't need to waste the time introducing my character and showing a camera move in my final frames. Okay, so since I'm going to use that one, let me mark it. Now let me find the next one. And you can judge this based on your sketch, right? We're just trying to replace our sketch ideas with our final frames. So now I want to show that he's frolicking. So this is a good one to show he's frolicking. I'll keep that one. So I'm picking my 9 best frames that tell the story. And then this one, kind of shows that he's happy. But then I think I'm going to show it where he's starting to go back a little bit. Like maybe this one. And move that up into the 3rd spot. Okay? So you can't really choose these frames mathematically. Now I'm going to move a lot quicker with the frames because things start to happen a lot quicker now. I have to introduce the dinosaur. He gets introduced there, so I want that frame. Move that into this spot. Which one do I want to be in the middle? Well, I really want, maybe I want this one to be over here. So, you tweak it, you figure it out. And then in the middle, I really want the, this. And then what do I want above that? Maybe that one. You see, and I'm kind of just telling the story. And then this one, I want for down here. You see how it's starting to shape up here? And then he just moves off. So probably this one. Move that to the bottom. And that one. So you pick the 9 frames that best tell your story. Notice I don't need this to loop around. But now we just save that as a Photoshop file. We save it as a JPEG. We upload it.